Welcome back to episode, what is it now? 5 of Chip Off the Old
Episode
Black. What's
5,
going on, Mandinga?
Ship Off the Old Black. I think that's Cinco. I'm running out of Spanish numbers to count our episodes.
Yeah,
Uh, it is episode 5 of Chip Off the Old Black. I'm doing good, Dad. How you doing?
I'm doing I'm doing terrific. A little jet lagged, but I'm doing terrific.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hold on. We got a little bit of housekeeping. Give me a second. Give me a sec.
Uh-oh. Here it comes. What is the flavor du jour?
Mmm. It's sandalwood. It's
Mmm.
sandalwood. It's got that.
Smells
Makes my
kind of
caves
sandally.
makes my cave smell mossy.
Your cave smell mossy. Okay.
Makes my cave smell all manly and musky. And it's one of those wooden wicks, so it like sizzles and pops while it burns. It's a what does mom call it? A sensory experience. That's what
It's
it is.
yes, sensory experience.
Hmm. This Nespresso is also a sensory experience. They now owe me money.
It's tough to beat that. It's tough to beat that.
Okay. First order of business before we go any further, we have an important announcement to make. We have a huge shout out to make to one of my mother's colleagues. They work together. They're in Fairbanks working together right now. And one of my good friends, one of my real good friends, she is one of our tens of fans. She is currently leading the pack in the
She's the head of the
Chip
fan
Off the
club.
Old Black and Chip Off the Old Black fan club. She's one of our 15 followers, Ashley Walley. And Ashley Walley is getting a shout out today because if you have tuned in, you have seen that Chip Off the Old Black now has its own logo and in its own little caricature of Dad and I. I haven't seen it, but Ashley assured me that it's fantastic.
It's
And
awesome. It's
Ashley created
awesome.
that.
I have seen it. Regrettably, of course, you haven't seen it, but it's cool.
I have not seen it, but I will take your and Ashley's where Ashley told me it's great. Ashley created that for us for the show. So Ashley, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being a subscriber and a huge fan of the show, and we really appreciate the logo. Really, the only issue I see with it is that once we start putting that on some merch, she's gonna send me a voice clip and be like, "Did someone mention a
Was
check?
there was there mention of a check?
Was there mention of a check?"
Yeah. Once we start putting it on the chips off the old black bag, which, by the way, another one of our viewers remarked in the comments, you need to make sure that the chips are black, like black tortilla chips or something. Chip off the old. So
Chips,
that's not a bad
of course,
idea.
they'll be black.
We'll keep that in mind when we get the when the merch people, when Frito Lay starts approaching us, we'll keep that in mind. Yeah, that is.
But
Thank you, Ashley. That is awesome. I'm going to say she's one of our fans. I think she's more one of your fans than one of your mother's fans than one of my fans. But hey, that doesn't matter. I don't care where the fans come as long as they tune in and view. That reminds
wait,
me, make sure
real
and stick
quick,
around.
yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I think we were going to say the same thing. Speaking of fans, two things. I think what Dad is about to say, I'm going to steal his thunder. Make sure you stick around for the end of the show because we finally don't want to talk about it.
We
Uh,
finally don't want to talk about it.
we finally don't want to talk about it. We said we'd answer 3 questions and no more, and that's good because we didn't even get three, but we did get one. So stick around for the end of the show for the first official segment of We Don't Want to Talk About It. The second matter is, you know what doesn't cost any money? Clicking that like button and clicking that subscribe button. Few things in this world are free. That's one of them. Why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go ahead and click that subscribe button right now? Go ahead. We'll wait.
Yeah, we're waiting, still waiting. Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything. Click that subscribe button, and it helps out the channel.
I'm gonna take a really long sip of coffee while you're clicking that subscribe button.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds good. I might jump in there right now. People see me glance down periodically. I have made a few bullet points of things we're going to talk about. As I've said in every episode, and should be blatantly obvious, even if I didn't say it, uh, this is not scripted. Cameron and I don't have any scripted conversations, but we have had, everybody's a critic once you once you put yourself out there, and we've had some people say, the show needs to be a little more structured. So Cameron and I, we're not happy, but we're not happy about it. But we're going to try to make it a little more structured. So if you see me glance down, I'm just looking at some bullet points. For Cameron to glance down at bullet points, he'd have to have a refreshable braille display going. So
Yep. I'd have to
I'll
have a
just
big
write
old
them out,
braille
and
book
that
of bullet
that way we
points over
maybe
here.
we can stay on track. I can't promise that we're going to stay on track. We don't usually stay on track. So anyway, moving right along. So, what have you been doing for the last week? I guess since we really talked last significantly.
I've been busy at work. One of the things I do at work is I'm our tour guide and I'm our designated public speaker, and I have been doing a lot of both of those things. And I also had kind of a belated Easter for my kids this weekend, so that went really well. They really enjoyed that. That was good. So I've been busy with work and kiddos. But you, as our viewers can tell, you are no longer in a suit on a ship. You are back in Alaska. You're back home. You've been home for a couple days, I think. So how was the rest of your trip? How was the rest of the cruise?
It was awesome. The we did a couple of episodes that you referred to while I was on board with your mother, and those were days at sea for the most part. It was a transatlantic crossing, and the first part of the cruise, the first I think 7 8 days maybe in a row, were sea days. Uh, I haven't spoken to you, I don't think, since we visited the ports. We had all those sea days, and we had a port day back to back to back. We stopped at a place called Portland Wayland in the United Kingdom, and then we went over to Le Havre in France, and then we went to Dover in the United Kingdom, and then we ended up at Rotterdam, and then took a train to Amsterdam and spent the last couple of days there. Your sister actually came from Paris and joined us in Amsterdam for something that was on your mother's bucket list. I think I'm pronouncing it right. The Kuchenhof. I call it the Hoofenhofer. I don't know what it's called, but I
The
can tell you one
Kuchenhof?
thing, buddy. That Hoofenhofer will wear you out. It is the Tulip Festival. Amsterdam is world renowned for the Tulip Festival. 7 million tulip bulbs uh, planted, and it was beautiful. Of course, got a lot of images that I'll end up putting up on my website and social media and things like that. Uh,
Ed, I've got 7 million dandelions in my backyard if you guys want to see
I
that.
know we should
I
have just
mean,
come to see the dandelion. We could go to the
you
dandelion
should
festival. It probably wouldn't
you
cost
should have.
me
I
as
tell
much
you
either.
what,
But
Sis did tell me
anyway,
about that.
what's that?
Sis did tell me about that, and don't get me wrong, I am sure for the sighted population of the world, it is probably a breathtaking experience. To me, it sounds dull as dishwater. It sounds awful.
It would be awful. It'd be awful for you. It'd be awful for you. You could just keep saying, Meta, take a picture that I can't
Be
see.
like,
Meta, take another
like
picture or
Meta,
video that I can't see.
be like the Meta, be like, there's flowers and there's more flowers. Oh, look, there's flowers, and for a change of pace, there's flowers.
Hey, so a few more flowers. Hey, what is that over there? Flowers. I think that's flowers over there. There was the occasional tree. That place was overrun with people. It was unreal.
I'm
Uh,
sure.
but your mother loved it. I think your sister. I mean, it's something. It's something your sister, as she stated, it's not something she'd probably do on her own. But I think she had a good time. I had a good time as a photographer. I mean, it's an awesome place as a photographer to take some
I'm
great
thrilled
images.
that you guys enjoyed the Guggenhoofen. That's
The,
awesome.
the Kuchenhofer, but I think it was about 3 miles worth of walking, and we were Poopenhofered after the Kuchenhofer. I can tell you that. Uh, but that was our last. And then Monday morning we got on a plane in Amsterdam at 7:15 and got here to Anchorage at about 8 o'clock at night. Really, really long day. I do want to touch on one other thing, more on a serious side. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but that was on your mother's bucket list. One of the things that has always been on my bucket list, and I don't really know why, other than I'm a patriotic American. I'm not saying people aren't. I just am, and I didn't serve in the military. I didn't have a father or grandfather that served, but one of the things we were able to do from the port of Le Havre is go to Omaha Beach, go to where D-Day
Mm.
happened. And so we went to Omaha Beach. We went to the American Cemetery that has close to 10,000 American soldiers buried there. And, particularly when we were, I knew it'd be kind of hard on me. And particularly when we went to the cemetery, we're just walking along this tree lined walk. And all of a sudden you look to the left and it's just grave after grave after grave after grave after grave. Uh, and I just broke down. Uh, for the most part, it was quiet. I say for the most part, that there were some kids there on a field trip, so there went some of the quiet. Uh, our tour guide, and a shout out to him. When we got in the bus, and I realized, of course, the tour guide was French. Uh, I'm not a big fan of the French, and I shouldn't even say that. The only place in France that I've been before that for any amount of time was Paris. And I don't, Paris is technically in France, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure you should judge all French people by that. But uh, this guy was born in Normandy. And he said at the end of the tour, the sacrifice that happened here, uh, what the Americans did for our freedom, he said, speaking for myself and the other people that live here, we will never forget it. We will never forget it. And it was just really a moving experience for most people. Uh, I think that maybe the French school teachers took the kids out as a field trip to try to explain to them, try to show them what happened. Frankly, I think there's probably a lot of French people that have forgotten what happened, and regrettably, I think there's probably a lot of Americans that have forgotten what the sacrifices that were made. But anyway, we saw one couple. I just wanted to twist the guy's head off. We saw one couple that actually, even though it was not a ship excursion, this couple was on the cruise with us. They had just taken the same excursion company that we did. They're out there standing in front of these marble gravestones, taking a selfie. They're holding a selfie stick up, taking a selfie, smiling, laughing. I thought, man, you talk about inappropriate.
That's
And then we went
yeah,
from there to Omaha Beach.
that's disgraceful.
Yeah, it is. It was very, very dishonorable. And we went to Omaha Beach and got to walk on Omaha Beach and see some of the German bunkers. A couple of them still had big, big guns in them. So it was a really moving experience. And I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we did the tulip thing uh, because that's something your mother's always wanted to do. Ironically, we didn't necessarily choose this trip because it did those things, but it was a great opportunity and we took advantage of it. And now that everybody's snoozing, bored to death about our trip, I just wanted to get that in about the D-Day thing. It's really a
I
special
think that's
thing.
awesome that you did that. I think
If you
that's
get,
really
and I
cool.
just tell anybody viewing, if you get an opportunity to do that, uh, I'd highly recommend it. It's, would I do it again? No, it's not. It's not an entertaining thing. It's just a really an enlightening thing and a sobering thing. Okay, so anyway,
I think that's awesome that you did that. The last thing I'll say on that, not to make light of what you said, because I completely agree with you. But I'm just curious, when the tour was over and the guy took you back, you said he was French. Did he say, "Now go away, or I shall taunt you a second time"?
no, no. The last thing he said was what I mentioned about how much uh, how much he would never forget what happened there, and too many people, I'm afraid, have forgotten. But anyway, we did that, and then we went to Dover, England, and then we went to Amsterdam, went to the Tulip Festival, flew home. I'm a little jet lagged, but hey, we're home now, and for the most part, everything made it okay, except one of our bags. One of our bags.
Mom's, wasn't it?
Well, we had so many. We had each other's stuff shoved in different bags just to get everything packed and keep everything underweight. And then we took 4 total bags, 3 suitcases and a garment bag, and they lost one of our suitcases. It actually had a nice lens of mine in it, along with some other things. Hopefully they'll get it back to us, but it never made it out of Amsterdam.
Is
Uh,
it is it the airline that I think it is? Can we say their name, or do you think they might be watching this? They might sue us.
actually, we can say their name, but it wasn't them. It
They,
was
what,
not
really?
Alaska Airlines. It was British Airways. That's who
Oh,
we.
good for you, Alaska Airlines. You didn't
Yeah,
screw up.
good for you. You finally did something right. But we went through. We went left Amsterdam on British Airways to London Heathrow, and then London Heathrow to Seattle. And in Seattle, when you go through customs, you have to go pick up your bags first. And we went to pick them up, and that's when we found out it was gone. And come to find out that it's still in Amsterdam. They're still looking for it. So I felt a little like Jack Lemmon, but just give me your name. Give me your name and your address. Uh,
Apparently, the Brits pack airplanes like they cook food.
yeah, yeah. Well, and fortunately, we were able to avoid. We went to a tea a couple of times, and it was excellent. Tea and strumpets was excellent.
I do love tea and strumpets for sure.
Other than that, we were able to avoid the food in the UK, which is a good thing if anybody's ever eaten there. Uh,
We're gonna talk about that later. Actually, you don't know it, but we're gonna.
we're gonna okay. I don't know it, but we're gonna okay. Enough about our travels and our lost luggage. And I appreciate everybody being patient with me talking about the D-Day thing. It's just really a special thing to me. Okay, trying to move along a little bit. I think it's about time. Don't you think it's about time for the Dadgummit blowout special?
I think it is high time for the dadgummit. And boy, do I have a dadgummit blowout. Feels like feels like it has been just a week of dadgummit blowouts. When I prepare for this segment, the first team I look at is my Kansas City Royals, and they they do not disappoint.
You don't have to
Um,
research that much.
I really don't have to look that far for a dadgummit blowout. Kansas City Royals. So, uh, the Kansas City Royals, they were on an 8-game losing streak. Now, that 8-game losing streak broke last night when they beat the Orioles 6-5, but then they decided to pick back up another losing streak because they lost today. Um, so they they had a 1-game winning streak going, and they decided they were going to start losing again today, which was interesting. Excuse me, interesting because they made a huge announcement today that we'll get to in a minute. But first, the dadgummit blowout. The Royals went on a 6-game road trip where they went to Detroit, got swept, went to New York, got swept. Uh, those were 2 3-game series. They got swept through both of them. So 6 straight losses. But 2 of those losses, one of them was against the New York Yankees, and the Royals lost 13-4 in a dadgummit blowout. And then the very next day against the New York Yankees, they lost 7-0 in a dadgummit blowout. So the Royals once again earned the throne. I don't think they've even given up the throne of the dadgummit blowout.
No, I think since we started the segment, it's always been the Royals. Now they lost 8 in a row and then they won. What do you, what is the problem? I mean, the obvious answer would be they stink, but uh, what is the issue with
I
their
think
pit? Is it with their pitching or
I think on the surface, just off the top of my head, I think baseball is the problem. But to give it a little bit more of an analysis than that, I tell you, last year, not this year, but last year, I literally heard a Royals analyst. He said, right now the Royals are struggling with their offense, their fielding, and their pitching. And I was like, so baseball. They're struggling with baseball. Um, but seriously, their issue right now, in my humble opinion, is offense. The pitching has really been pretty. It's been decent. Obviously, you can't say it's great when you're losing 13-4 and 7-0. You know, there are some issues there, but they have lost a lot of close games, which is frustrating. They have lost a lot of 2-1, 1-0 type of games. The other night, I came home, I was listening to a game. They had the bases loaded 3 times and scored nobody. And then they had the lead going into the ninth inning, even though they hadn't scored anybody, they still had the lead. And they let the Orioles tie the game, and the Orioles came back to win it in extra innings. So pitching is really pretty good. It's not stellar, but it's pretty good. It's kept them in the game. Uh, that particular game, Seth Lugo threw 7 innings of shutout ball. So absolutely no excuse. When you got the bases loaded 3 times, you have got to send dudes home, and they're
So
not doing it.
is the starting pitching lineup good for the Royals? Is the problem with the bullpen or what?
I think the starting pitching is really pretty good. I mean, like I said, it's had some issues here and there. Bullpen has always been a little bit of an issue. But you know, like I said the other night, with when they lost to the Orioles on Monday, Seth Lugo, they call him the doctor because he no, they call him the surgeon because he operates, and he was operating. He threw, it was either 7 or 8 innings of completely shut out baseball, and they still lost. And I think the most troubling stat that I saw afterwards is that they stranded something like 14 or 16 guys on base.
They left a small city on the base pads then.
They left a small village on the base paths, and you're not going to win baseball games if you're doing that. And so that's what I think the biggest issue is right now is just a lack of offense. And when you've got a lineup that consists of Bobby Witt Jr., who we just paid a $300 million to him. When you got Bobby Witt Jr. and you got Salvador Perez and you got Vinny Pasquantino, there's really not. You got Jack Caglione. There's really not a great excuse to not have at least some offensive production going.
But they just can't hit the ball. They just can't hit the ball and score runs.
Yeah. But on the tail end of that, interestingly enough, they chose today to make a huge announcement. Uh, Kansas Cityans, if that's the right term, knew this announcement has been coming for a long time. It is it has been talked about that the Royals, who are currently living in Kauffman Stadium, their lease on Kauffman runs out, I think 2030 or 2031. I'm not sure which. And there was a lot of talk of them moving, and there was even some talk of them leaving the city. I know Nashville, Tennessee was brought up a lot. Nashville really wants a baseball team. And no matter how much they
But
stink,
they'll take
and
the Royals and they'll take the Royals in lieu of a baseball team.
they might. They want a baseball team. They're like, we'll take the Royals if we can't get a baseball team. Uh, but no matter how much they stink, the Royals are still my team. They were my first baseball team. My first baseball game was in
Sure.
Kauffman, and I don't want them to leave. I really don't. So I was very happy today, and other people are not sharing my opinion, but I was very happy today to hear that the Royals have made a deal with Hallmark, and Hallmark owns Crown Center here in Kansas City, and the new Royal Stadium is now going to be built in the Crown Center area. And I was listening to the radio on the way home, and they were having people call in to say what they thought about it. And most of the feedback was negative. It wasn't necessarily even negative. It was more like, where in the world are they going to put it? Which is valid. They're
Yeah,
probably going to have to bulldoze some
isn't
stuff to
that
put it in there.
I mean that Crown Center you're talking about, that's in downtown, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Wow.
is. And I I told my driver who was driving me home, I said, maybe you shouldn't have made this announcement in the middle of your 8 game losing streak. I'm just saying.
Maybe wait until you got a little something going on and then make the announcement. Well, at least, they're associated with Hallmark, so Hallmark can send them, "Hey, I'm sorry you lost 8 games in a row
Yeah,
cards. Won't
they'll be
cost them
sending us
anything.
all. They'll be sending us all get well soon cards after all the Royals losses.
Well, but so the Royals are staying there. That's the bottom line.
The bottom line is the Royals are staying here in Kansas City.
Okay. Okay. Now, does the same folks own the Royals that own the Chiefs?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
A man named John Sherman owns. I don't think he's the sole owner. I think he's a partial owner of the Royals. The Hunt family uh,
Yes. The Hunt family
owns
owns the
Clark
Chiefs.
Hunt, Lamar Hunt. They own the Chiefs. The Chiefs are moving too, but they are not. They're still going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. But they announced a while back, and I don't recall where they're going. But they announced a while back that they will be vacating Arrowhead in the near future. But they are still going to be the Kansas City Chiefs.
That is wild. And for those that don't know, I've actually been to 2 or 3 games at Arrowhead. Arrowhead, where the Chiefs play, and Kauffman Stadium, where the Royals play, shared the same parking lot. Uh,
They do.
it's wild.
the
They're like
the
right next
the
door to
the
each other
the
and
Truman
share the same overpriced
the
parking.
Truman Sports Complex.
Yeah, whole sports complex. Well, I'm sorry to hear that your Royals are having a little bit of struggle, bud.
Yeah, they're struggling with baseball a little bit, but they'll figure it out. I'm glad they're staying put though.
Well,
Um,
the
but
good news for you though is there's like 827 games in a season, right? So they've got time to turn it around.
yeah, they've got time before they have before they lose 826 of them.
They're
Uh,
not out of the
but
playoffs yet.
No, no, they're not out. They're not. They are well below 500. I don't even know what their record is because I don't want to talk about it. But it is well
You
below.
know what? Hey, that's not one of the questions. So you can't say you don't want to talk about it, but you just don't want to talk about it.
Well, I'm not good at. I deliberately don't know what their record is. I can say the win column has not changed since I checked it last. I can say that with relative certainty.
Hey, I heard some things. Kind of shifting gears, we try to talk about sports, baseball, basketball, football, and even sometimes, I don't know why, but golf. Like Richard Jenny says, I know that'll piss off a lot of fat old guys in yellow pants, but, golf isn't a sport. I like it. I like golf. I've played golf for a long time, but it's a game. It's not a sport. Uh, but the Masters tournament, and the talk about this will be about 30 seconds, but the Masters tournament, Roy McIlroy over the weekend, and I didn't see it. Typically, I watch the Masters. I didn't see it. I was out of the country, but he won his second in a row. So back to back Masters. And evidently, his victory was overshadowed by CBS's coverage of the final hole. Now, I know you don't know anything about golf telecast, Cameron, but golf telecast, when it gets down to the last group, on the final day, the leader and the guy in second place play together, and they are the last group off the tee box, meaning they are the last group to come through the 18th hole. They tee off, and there's no other golfer on the course, period. Just them. Just the two of them, and in this case, with the Masters, probably 100,000 fans. But just the two of them. CBS probably had 800 cameras to cover two guys on the 18th hole. Okay. Roy McIlroy hits his tee shot way to the right. I can't remember the other guy's name. He hits his way to the left.
Doesn't
They
matter. He
find,
lost.
huh?
It doesn't matter his name. He lost.
He lost. Doesn't matter what his name is. But they're both way out of the fairway. So the camera gets behind Roy McIlroy. He's going to hit his approach shot uh, to the green. He hits the ball. Nobody knows where it went. They've got 800 cameras and probably literally 1,000 staff members for CBS, all standing there, cameras all over the place. Nobody knew where his ball went. And to make matters worse, we'll find his ball in a minute. Let's go over to what's his name that lost. Let's see his second shot. Same thing. He's he swings. They've got 1,000 cameras on him. They lost his ball, so they couldn't find either one of them. Finally, they find them both up by the green. To end the story, Roy McIlroy's in the trap. He pitches up short of the pin. and then he has a two putt. He putts up and he's like 3 inches away from the hole, and he lets the other guy putt out. So, you're a loser. You can go ahead and putt out, and he's going to putt for the championship. This is the putt that wins the championship. And the CBS camera team was behind him where you couldn't even see him hit the ball. They didn't show any other view except that one. Anyway, that coverage has been just absolutely lambasted and all over all over social media and everything. How they can mess it up with that many people. But I thought
If
it
I
was kind
was
of
Roy
funny.
McIlroy, if I was Roy McIlroy, two things. One, I'd be flat pissed off,
I'd be flat pissed
and
off.
flat pissed off. And second, you know what they should do to avoid that next time? Remember, we used to take Sis and I and Mom. We would go putt putting, and y'all would get me like the brightest freaking ball that was available. It was like this neon orange ball that you guys would would get for me when we would go putt putting when I was a kid. That's the kind of ball. I bet you Roy McIlroy he needs to have those bright neon
Yeah,
orange
he
balls.
does. I don't know. Most men don't like bright balls. I don't know what to say about that. But
He
uh,
probably had no problem with bright balls. He's a back to back. He's a back to back Masters winner. He's all right with bright balls. And
he can play with whatever kind of balls he wants.
the
For
other
those of you who
guys
may be
like
curious, hey, how does a blind guy play putt putt? Cameron's right. We take him out to play putt putt, and this is how we give him the brightest ball. At that time, he had a little bit of vision where he could get down real close and kind of see the ball. But when he stood up to putt, he or his mother, myself or his mother, would have to, kind of line up his putter, and then the other of us went to where the hole was and rattled the end of our putter into the hole so he could hear where the hole was. And
maybe
actually,
for that guy who lost, someone should have been rattling their putter in the hole for him.
yeah, yeah. But and actually, Cameron was pretty good. But anyway, enough about golf. Enough about the Masters. It wasn't so much about the Masters as about the incompetence of sports coverage anymore. It's kind of ridiculous. A more important thing happened for you and me while I was gone. The Oklahoma University football spring game. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. Have you heard anything about it?
I have not heard much, and so please tell me how it went. I'm curious. I haven't heard a lot.
Well, it was a dadgummit blowout, but it's a spring game.
Dadgummit blowout.
Dadgummit blowout. The red team beat the white team 31-3. Now, this is
Ooh,
how that happens.
they beat
The
the
red
crap out of them.
team,
See, there it is.
the red team was the first team offense against the second team defense.
Mm-hmm.
The white team was the second team offense against the first team defense. Well, the first team defense just absolutely suffocated. Uh, they just absolutely suffocated the backup offensive players, including the backup quarterback. And I'll get to a kind of a funny Brent Venables story about that here in a minute. But anyway, most of the take was, I think people ought to pump the brakes. It's a spring game, you know. John Mateer's wearing a blue jersey, meaning you can't touch him. So he's obviously going to be a little more relaxed because he knows he's not going to get creamed every time he goes back to throw. But
Football would be great if you couldn't tackle the quarterback.
yeah, it would be. Patrick Mahomes would. He'd love it if they couldn't tackle the quarterback.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, I think not Mahomes. I think Mateer went 13 for 20 for just a shade under 200 yards and a touchdown. And then he had I think a 37-yard touchdown, and I think he had a 70-yard touchdown to Satania that the officials said Satania stepped out of bounds, so they waved it off as a touchdown, just a long reception. Brent Venables in his press conference.
He stepped out of those lines that you're not supposed to
Yeah,
step out of.
you can't
Shout
step out
out
of
to my
those
big
lines. You're not supposed to
shout
step
out to
out
my
of.
big sis.
Yeah,
She knows about them lines that you're not supposed to step out of.
yeah, you're not supposed to step outside those lines. Anyway, Venables in his post game press conference said, "Yeah, I watched the replay, and he didn't go out of bounds, so that was a touchdown." But anyway, one thing that is encouraging to us Oklahoma fans, it's funny you're talking about the Royals. What is the problem? And if you had to put a finger on it, and I think it's pretty accurate, they can't score runs. If they can't score points, that puts a lot of pressure on your defense. Well, Oklahoma, as anybody knows that watched Oklahoma play last year, uh, John Mateer was really good. The first 4 games of the year, he got his thumb broken in the Auburn game. He was throwing a ball and in the thumb on his throwing hand, he hit an offensive lineman's helmet. Nobody even knew until the end of the game. He that happened in the first half, and he played the rest of the game, and they won the game. But he had looked really strong. People were talking about him as the Heisman front runner. Then his thumb gets broken, and he rushes back to play in the Texas game, and that was a train wreck. He couldn't hardly do anything, and really, he was never himself after that. And it wasn't the the ineffectiveness of the offense. And you remember this, Bud. You and I watching all the games. Everybody wanted to blame it on him. It wasn't just him. The offensive line stunk. They couldn't block. Their running game was. I think they were 80th or 90th in the country in yards per carry rushing the ball.
Yeah,
You know, and
you would
if you learn about
you would
football,
often
what happens when you can't run the ball, Bud?
you can't. It makes you very one dimensional. Forces them to pass the ball, and that's not too terrible if you have a decent O line. OU's O line, you have described them being kind of like 5 blocks of silly putty. I've heard them described as like a revolving door. I think of them more like one of those doors at Walmart that you put your foot on and it just opens right up.
you just you just get close to it and it opens up. I
Yeah,
think
they
that
just as soon as it gets
Mateer,
close to it, they just go like
yeah,
that.
yeah, uh, yeah. That was kind of the offensive line last year. Ironically, they weren't that bad in pass blocking, but Mateer spent the last 3/4 of the year scared scared to death. He had no trust in him, so he left the pocket too early. He made a lot of poor decisions, but it all started with the fact that the offensive line, while they were decent pass blocking, they could not run the ball. Period. They could not run it at all. So Mateer got no help. Well, fast forwarding to this year, they've made some changes. They've got some transfer offensive linemen, but more importantly, they've got returning offensive linemen that have made it all the way through spring and have not gotten nobody's gotten injured. Uh, our running back coach, I loved our running. I loved him when he was a Sooner, and I loved him when he was a Cowboy. And I was excited when he came to Oklahoma to coach running backs. And that's DeMarco Murray, and he signed over his tenure a lot of high-powered high school running backs. None of them ever panned out to be anything because he was one of those guys that he could, just on his reputation and the kind of man he was, he could get the guys to come to Oklahoma, but he couldn't do anything with them when he got them there. So I was one who was kind of outspoken that he should be replaced in the offseason. He was not ever going to get fired. Fortunately, in my opinion, anyway, fortunately for the university, he took a job in the NFL. I can't remember with who, maybe the Raiders. I can't remember where he went, but he went as a running back coach in the NFL, and OU hired the Notre Dame running back coach. We'll talk a hair more about him here in a few minutes, but uh, they hired him, and the first drive in the spring game, I think, was an 11 play drive, and I think 8 of them were runs. Uh, our top running back in the spring game had 8 carries for 81 yards, so that's pretty good. The running game evidently looked really good. Uh, Another area that looked really good, I've already touched on, that I'm still tentative because he's not under live fire, was Mateer. He looked really good. Uh,
You know what? I'm excited to see a healthy Mateer. Hopefully, not knock on wood, a healthy Mateer for a full season because as you noted earlier, he did mess up his thumb in the Texas game and was not himself for the rest of the season after that. But even though he wasn't himself, they still won several games after Texas.
you
Uh,
know what he amazingly what he did, or the offense did, really both of them. Their last 2 games, they averaged 17 points a game, and they still won. The defense is going to be really good, like they were last year. Uh,
yeah,
and they've got some returning starters, but they've got some young guys that are really playing well so far. Uh, but what Mateer and the offense managed to do last year is get behind the eight ball and then somehow, some way, make a play to win the game. Uh, you know, they wouldn't make but two or three plays during the game, but they made them when they had to make them. So, what's going to
They
be
do.
interesting about Oklahoma football come this fall, the defense is going to be great. You know, I think Vegas has the over and under on total wins at 7.5. OU has kind of a tough schedule, to say the least, like anybody in the SEC. But Oklahoma, Oklahoma has Michigan, at Georgia, and Texas in the Cotton Bowl in the first 6 weeks of the season.
That's
So,
rough.
yeah, that's pretty rough. But you know, they made it to the playoff last year with basically very little offense, no running game. So if the spring game is any indicator, you know, hopefully they've got that running game thing situated. I touched on this a little bit in an earlier episode, but probably the worst position room maybe on the team, not just on the offense, was the tight end room last year. Uh, they had they really didn't have any, and they hired Jason Witten, and the tight end room looks totally different. They're playing totally different, and that will help not only in the pass game but in the run game. So I was pretty encouraged what I heard, but it is a spring game, and the quarterback can't be touched, and you know this, that, and the other. One quick story, one quick last story about the spring game. You'll appreciate this. Uh, you know, the white team, Bo Bentley, who's a high rated recruit out of high school. He is what we presume is going to be the second team quarterback. He's a true freshman, never played college football. They get like 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8 on their own 15-yard line. And keep in mind, this is the backup quarterback, backup offense, backup offensive line against the first team defense.
Hmm.
3rd and long from the 15-yard line, and Brent Venables calls a blitz uh, right up the middle. Both backers and the safety came. Oklahoma's safety is a guy named Michael Boganowski, and he is a heat-seeking missile that just wants to murder anybody in his path. He
He's the
comes
water
through.
boy.
He comes through completely untouched, and from what I hear, you could just see Bo Bentley like making out his last will and testament back there. He knew he was going to get, and for some reason, Boganowski fortunately had the discipline to pull off hitting him. He didn't last year. Boganowski, he knocked a couple players out in the spring scrimmage last year. So,
Did,
thankfully, you know, it's just hard to believe Venables would do that to his freshman quarterback, run a blitz at him deep in his own end, but he did it
did
anyway.
anyone in the spring game return to town during the spring game?
Did anybody transfer? Returning? I'm returning to town. Not that I know of. I think Taylor Wine, and I'm not clear on what the injury is, but I said they came out without any major injuries, but that wasn't true. He played a lot of time and was a really good player, edge guy for Oklahoma last year, and he's got some type of, I don't know what, and I should have probably researched it first. I'm not sure what the injury is, but I think he's probably going to miss the season. And we got comments from another one of our fans last week to let us know. Two of them actually texted me
That
and
makes
let me
three
know.
fans.
Yeah, and let me know that Owen Heineke uh, got granted another year of eligibility. So he's taken the linebacker room from, well, I don't know, to, yeah, they're going to be a real strength. So
By the
anyway,
way, uh, for the two or three people that are actually still watching, uh, when Dad and I say if a player is returning to town, it just means that he's transferring out to a different college. And the reason we say returning to town is too obscure to explain. But that's what that means.
that's what returning to town means. Okay, so we've talked some baseball, we've talked a little bit of football. Looking at my bullet points, I see the Cyclops segment. We haven't covered the Cyclops segment yet. You got anything for the Cyclops segment this week?
do, but we did have a little bit more football because tomorrow night is the NFL draft,
You're right. My
and
bad. I
I
even
am
made a note. I even made notes here of Kuiper's draft picks, and I forgot about it.
see, I didn't make any notes. And we are not about to Mel Kiper this thing. Mainly because we don't care. Uh, but I do care who the Chiefs select. So I will say I did a little research. I know Dad did some research. So let me uh, let me cover my research real quick. Um, the number one overall draft pick is projected to be Fernando Mendoza. Is his name Fernando?
Fernando, yes.
Fernando Mendoza, QB out of Indiana, going to the Raiders.
The Raiders.
The Chiefs have the number nine overall pick. Some people have them projected to trade out of that, actually. But presuming that they don't, then they are supposed to trade for a wideout. I believe.
Jordan
What
Tyson.
do you have on?
Jordan
Who's
Tyson.
that? Yes,
Yeah,
that was him. Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State, I believe.
yeah, Jordan Tyson. Now, according to Kuiper, and I'll go through real quick, but according to Kuiper, he's actually in the seventh position. But Mel Kiper with ESPN every year does this mock draft, and like anything else, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But I'm not going to go through who he projects they're going to go to. But number one, Mendoza from Indiana, quarterback. Number two, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, running back. I said we'd circle back around to this. The running back coach that Oklahoma hired this year to replace DeMarco Murray was the running back coach for Jeremiah Love last year. Number three, Arvell Reese with Ohio State, edge. Number four, Sonny Styles, Ohio State, linebacker. Number five, David Bailey, Texas Tech, edge. Number six, Caleb Downs, Ohio State, safety. Number seven, Jordan Tyson, Arizona State, wide receiver. Number eight, Carnell Tate, Ohio State, wide receiver. Number nine, Francis Magoya, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, from Miami, an offensive tackle. Number 10, Spencer Fano, another offensive tackle from Utah. I tell you what, the most interesting thing out of those top 10, one, two, three, four of them played for Ohio State. Uh, there's a
I'm
reason
not
Ohio
surprised by
State
that.
had one of the highest payrolls in college football last year. What's amazing, you have four of the top 10 picks off of your team, and you don't win the national championship. That's pretty tough, but pretty tough. So
I,
this Tyson
I do.
guy, your understanding is the Chiefs are trading up to get him.
No, not trading up. I saw two mock drafts. One of them, I think it was Kuiper's, just had the Chiefs just flat picking him at the spot they have, and then I saw another one that had them actually trading down to get the number 12 pick and the number 20 pick, and they took an edge rusher out of Miami and a wide receiver out of Indiana. Um, what really excites me, though, as the biased Oklahoma Sooners fan that I am, is in the second round, which we're not going to go over the second round at all, except for this right here. Kuiper has the Chiefs projected to pick R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma. They have him positioned as an outside linebacker. You told me earlier that he played edge in college.
Yeah, he played edge at Oklahoma, and you know, I I hope he goes to the Chiefs. That'd be awesome, and has a and really succeeds. I think if he's going to play linebacker, I don't know. I don't know. He may not. They may not think that he is heavy enough to play edge. Maybe that's why they moved him to linebacker. Lord knows he's athletic enough. He is a really athletic guy. Uh, yeah, that that back to that Jordan Tyson. I saw him play in a couple of games, and he's really good. It's interesting. He's right next to that Carnell Tate from Ohio State. I saw him play too, and he's really good. Uh, something that's an indicator, just a little small indicator of the issues that Oklahoma had last year. I don't think in the first two rounds they have an offensive lineman projected to go. That kind of That kind of
They
tells you
didn't.
something
They didn't
right
have
there.
anybody projected to
Okay, and
go
the draft is
except
the
for R.
draft is
Mason Thomas.
what's that?
Oklahoma doesn't have anyone projected to go in the first 2 rounds except for R. Mason Thomas.
Well, it certainly wouldn't be anybody from the offensive side of the ball, that's for sure. And
Mm-mm.
really, OU returns most of their defensive players from last year. So, including Kip Lewis, the linebacker who was going to go to the draft and change his mind and decided to stay at Oklahoma. So that's good. They did lose our Mason Thomas. I'm sure they lost somebody else that I'm missing, but they returned most of them. So the draft is tomorrow night, right?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, it's tomorrow night. So I will definitely get notifications on my phone and keep my finger on the pulse of that. The first 2 rounds are tomorrow night. So next time we meet for episode 6, I will know who the Chiefs selected in the draft.
Okay. I'm old enough to remember when the draft, I mean, now it's a big deal, televised by ESPN, and, it's a huge deal. I can remember for years and years and years and years, it got no media coverage. You didn't find out who drafted who until several days later when it came out in the newspaper. But now it's a major event. Okay, is
Mhm.
that all we got sports wise?
I think that's all we got for sports.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. Now we're done with that. You have something for the Cyclops segment.
I do have something for the Cyclops segment. I was thinking about it. I initially was going to talk about, it's not really a story. I was initially going to talk about questions that I have been asked on dating apps, because unfortunately I have had to resort to using those. But not long before this show, I actually thought of another story that I really wanted to tell. If someone wants to hear questions I've been asked on dating apps by grown women who unfortunately have reproduced in a lot of cases, then leave it in the comments and I will definitely get to that. But I thought of another story, and I hope that I'm not taking one that you might tell because this story involves both of us. But
Okay.
it's fairly recent, and I thought it was pretty funny. Um, so last winter, Kansas City got one really good gust of snow where it probably snowed 3 or 4 inches in Kansas, which for Kansas City, that's a lot. Uh, for Dad, that's a dusting. For us, it's quite a bit. And I was home from work, and it is a real problem. Some people might think, well, Cam, it doesn't matter to you if your driveway is covered in snow because you don't drive. Well, that's true, but I get picked up every morning for work. I get dropped off every evening for work. I have my groceries delivered, so I still need a clean drive, even though I don't drive myself. So I had a whole day in front of me, and I thought, I can shovel the drive. I've got a snow shovel. I'll go out there and I'll shovel the drive. So I got all bundled up, put my jacket on and a stocking cap and gloves and a scarf, and uh, I was listening to a baseball podcast and went out there with the shovel, and I'm just shoveling away in my own little world, just shoveling snow. Uh, I was probably out there for about an hour, and then I get done shoveling, and I don't know where I am. I am lost. I can't find my house. Here's the thing, and for those of you that are laughing, it's funny, but traveling in the snow when you're visually impaired or blind is extremely tricky. And it's why you will never catch my butt living in Alaska, ever. Uh, it is very tough to travel in the snow, even just walking, because everything feels the same. There are no different textures, so I can't tell the difference between concrete or grass or gravel. I can't feel curbs and steps and things like that. Everything is just snow. So I assume I get done shoveling my drive and I am lost. And the way I found out I was lost is because I was shoveling and I ran into a car. Well, I don't own a car. So whose car did I run into? So I ran into somebody's car, and so I'm trying to figure out where I'm at, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. So I video call Dad. Video call Dad, and Dad gets on, "What's up, Cam?" And I'm like, "Dad, I'm lost." He goes, "What do you mean you're lost? Where are you?" I said, "I don't know where I am. I'm lost." That's what I mean by I'm lost. And so I get my dad on the video call. We're doing a Be My Eyes call because I'm lost in the snow somewhere in my neighborhood. And I'm like, "Dad, where's my house at? Dad, where's my house?" And Dad, I panned the camera around, and Dad was able to point me back to the house, and he stayed on there with me until I got back into my garage and was back in my house. Turns out, the city should have paid me for my shoveling efforts, as should have my neighbor across the street, because not only did I shovel my drive, I also shoveled the street and my neighbor's drive, who lives across the street from me. Out of the goodness of my heart, I shoveled his drive too
Yeah,
until I ran into his car.
you shoveled a straight line down your own driveway, across the street, and into his driveway.
That's what I did. And if I hadn't called you, I might have been there till the snow melted.
Yeah, I remember that. Hey, Dad, I'm shoveling the driveway and I'm lost. And I'm like, how do you get lost shoveling the driveway? Well, this goes to show you, you can get lost shoveling the driveway. But hey, I was glad as you're telling the story when you say I hit a car and it wasn't the reverse, that a car didn't hit you. That would have been worse.
No, yeah, that'd have been bad.
My Cyclops story, I've got a couple that come to mind. And I mean, honestly, we'd probably be better off if we pre-planned and wrote down what story we were gonna tell, but I didn't. I've got a couple, and I don't know how they'll translate. They're kind of visual. I don't know how they'll translate on the screen, but uh, I'll start with the easiest one to translate. When Cameron was young, we'd sit around the dinner table, back in the good old days before we used TV trays like we do now. We'd sit around the dinner table, the four of us, and eat dinner. Cameron never really had much of an appetite, never really cared for a lot of things, and some of that was due to the medication that he was on at the time. But uh, anyway, when he ate his plate, I'm raising my hands up like it's a plate, Cameron. He'd have to hang. He'd put his face literally about an inch above, and he'd have his fork down there, and he'd be about an inch above the plate. And we were having spaghetti one night, and I just couldn't resist. It was horrible. I just couldn't resist. He'd been complaining about the spaghetti. He didn't like spaghetti. He still doesn't really like
I hate
spaghetti.
spaghetti.
But well, I didn't know you hated it. I thought you just didn't like it. But now you hate it.
No, I
I'll
don't
tell your
like it, and
mother,
I
make
think
sure
I
not to
think it's
make.
because you.
What's
I think it's
that?
because you traumatized. I, I think it's because you traumatized me.
I think that's
But
it.
go
That's
on.
it. You got some of those flashbacks. But anyway, he's hanging over his plate with his face about an inch above, trying to get some spaghetti, and I just reached over and put my hand on top of his head and smashed his face into the spaghetti. Uh, he raises his face up, laughing like he is now. Spaghetti noodles falling off his face, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, looking back, probably not a real nice thing to do, but we were just joking around. So anyway, that's my Cyclops story for tonight. So we've gotten to the last segment, the I don't want to talk about it segment. If anybody's been following us, we ask anybody that has any questions. And obviously, most of those questions may be uh, about what it's like being blind. How do you do this as a blind person? And as Cameron's already said, none of those questions are off the table. If you want to ask,
No,
he has answered probably about every question you can imagine. Uh, if you want to ask what it's like living in Alaska, ask those questions. If you want to ask what it's like being a photographer in Alaska, ask those questions. But you ask the questions, and we'll look through the questions. And how many are we going to answer at the most, Cameron?
we will answer 3 questions, no more, and we
Three
reserve the
questions.
right to not want to talk about it.
No more because we don't want to talk about it. Guess what? We've got a question this week. Now, granted,
It was my
granted, it's
mom.
from a close source, but we've got a
I
question
think
this week, And what is the
I think Mom
question?
felt bad for us, so she asked a question.
Yeah, I think she did. You matter of fact, I think she asked that question while we were on a tour while we were on a tour bus. So I don't even know what the question is. You've read the question, so let's
The
have it. This
question,
is the one
the
question we're going to talk about. One question. What is it?
the question that we got uh, from my mother, I'm paraphrasing here. I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but I believe it said, as a family, the four of us, as I was growing up, we were extremely fortunate, and we were very, very blessed to get to go on some really amazing trips as a family. And she asked Cameron, that's me, and Todd, that's him. She asked Cameron and Todd, what were each of you's favorite trips and why?
Okay, go ahead. Shoot.
Okay. I thought about this for a while because we really did take some amazing trips. And I really have very positive memories from all of them. Except skiing. No, I'm just kidding. I liked skiing too.
Except
Um,
what? I didn't hear you.
I said except skiing, but that's not entirely true. I enjoyed skiing. I did. I liked it. Uh, but I think one of my favorite trips, if probably my favorite trip we ever took, I loved it so much that I would actually love to go back as an adult. I think I would appreciate it even more. Was when we went to London. I really, really enjoyed going to London. I thought it was really neat. I would love to go back as an adult. I think I would have even more of an appreciation for it. I was a little disappointed when you and you probably don't even remember this. We went to the Tower of London. I know you remember the Tower of London, but you may not remember the thing that I was excited the most to see. I wanted to see the torture chamber.
The torture
And we got to
chambers.
the torture chamber. We get to the torture chamber. First of all, nobody was being tortured, so that's a bit of a letdown. And secondly, there was only like two or three torture devices in there.
I know they were a little light on torture devices. I was
They
surprised.
were. There needs to be more torture devices and torturing going on in the torture chamber. That's a misnomer. You call it a torture chamber. There's no torturing going on. But other than that, I really enjoyed London a lot. I thought it was really cool. One of my favorite things that we did. A couple of funny things coming out of London. Um, Dad was right earlier. The best thing to get in London is tea. The English, the Brits, make tea really, really well. Everything else they make is terrible. English food is awful, and it was so bad that I remember us going to a Pizza Hut one night, and that was like the best meal we had while we were there. And it was the only Pizza Hut I've ever been to that had. I remember it had a soda list, a beer list, and a wine list. I've never been to a Pizza Hut with a wine list, but by far, probably the most famous family story to take out of London, and Dad knows exactly where I'm going with this. The first night we get there, we are all terribly jet lagged, and none of us want to walk around London, but we also don't want to just hang out in the hotel room. So we decide we're going to go get on the top of one of those cool double decker buses they have in London, and just ride around the city for a while. And it was a lot of fun for the 3 or 4 minutes that we were all awake. At one point, all of us fell asleep, all of us. And when we woke up, the bus was parked in a bus barn, and we were stuck in there. And luckily the bus was not shut, and the barn was not shut, so we were able to get off the bus and get out of the bus barn and run over and catch a different bus that was still
Well,
running.
but also,
But I
fortunately, the door to the bus was open because the driver was not in the bus, was he? The driver
No, he
left.
was. The bus was completely empty. You would think he would have checked the top of the. Don't they check those things before they
You'd
go
think
to the bus
so. Of
barn?
course, we were all laying flat down on the seats asleep, but he didn't check anything. He just left. And
That's true.
we were in the bus barn and we woke up and we're like, where are we? And yeah, I remember that.
I I really enjoyed London, and now as an adult, people who know me know I'm such a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. I absolutely love Sherlock Holmes, and they have a Sherlock Holmes museum in London. Dad's falling asleep just thinking about that. But I would really love to go back and look at some of those things. I really enjoyed that trip. That trip was neat.
Yeah, London's a neat place to go. If there's any viewers that haven't been, you get an opportunity to go. It's really a neat historic place to go. It's very pedestrian friendly, other than you'll wear yourself out walking all over it. We rode the tube quite a bit. Remember Mind the Gap, Cameron?
I do remember Mind the Gap.
Mind the Gap. Do you remember the Lime Tree Hotel? We instead of Cameron's mother didn't want to stay
Yeah.
in a chain type hotel like I did.
Well, we ended
So
up in a chain, but that's a whole different
yeah,
story.
that's a whole different story. But anyway, so we booked a little little quaint hotel called the Lime Tree Hotel. There was five of us. Cameron's late grandmother went with us, but there's five of us.
She
We go in this hotel room. I've never seen anything like it since. We go in the hotel room. There's five single beds. It looked like a dormitory. There's five
It did. It
single
looked like one of
beds.
those boarding schools.
Yeah, like a boarding school. Five single beds. And fortunately, and this is a whole other story we won't get into, we ended up leaving the Lime Tree Hotel and checking into the Marriott Grosvenor Square, which is probably the nicest hotel I've ever stayed in. But
Mom,
yeah, that
mom
was fun.
said, mom said that one of the selling points for her, she was like, they make an authentic English breakfast. And then we had it, and I'm like, how is this a selling
Yeah,
point?
we had the off. She didn't do her research and see what an authentic English breakfast was. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Her
when they
research would
brought the
have told
cold
her
pork and
an
beans,
authentic English breakfast sucks.
yeah, when they brought the pork and beans on our egg plate, we're like, what in the world is this? Yeah,
I was looking for the authentic sausage McMuffin from McDonald's.
yeah. We had to wait until I don't even think when we went to Pizza Hut the pizza was awfully authentic. It was
It
Englishized. It was United
it wasn't.
Kingdomized, and it wasn't the pizza we're used to having. But
You know what?
uh,
If you recall, we went to a KFC too.
yeah, we went to
You know
wherever
what?
we could find any type of Western food because
You know what? I remember now the best meal we had. I can't believe I forgot this. Was we went to the original Hard Rock Cafe and
yeah,
had burgers and fries, and that was probably the best meal we had the whole trip.
ironically, we went to Barcelona a couple of years ago. Your sister met us there. The best meal we had in Barcelona, Hard Rock Cafe. So
Can't
you
beat the
look one
Hard
of
Rock.
those up.
It's hard to
Oh,
beat the Hard Rock Cafe.
okay. Now I'm supposed to answer the question. Uh,
Yeah.
I got so enthralled listening to your answer, I think I kind of forgot my answer. Let me
It
see.
can't be it can't be one of your cruises you took without us. It has to be
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that Sis and I
That
were
was my
there for.
favorite family vacation when there was no family with us. I've always felt like family vacation is kind of an oxymoron. Family getaway, yeah. Family vacation, no. But we one year for I think it was around Christmas time, probably that's when we went to London. That's usually what we did at that time. Instead of doing a bunch of gift exchange, we would just take them on these trips. And uh, we decided one year to go to Disney, if I'm not mistaken. As a matter of fact, I think we did Disney, Universal Studios, and then the Disney cruise. Uh, so we were three days at Disney, or 4 days at Disney, and three on the cruise. Anyway, instead of talking about the entire trip, which I won't, probably my favorite part of that trip was when we went to Universal Studios. Uh, we all went down there dressed for Florida weather. And Cameron, you remember we got to Universal and it was so flipping cold
It was
by
freezing cold, and we rode every ride that had explosions in it.
every ride that had explosions or fire, we would get on. And the good news is, remember, we could ride them as many times as we wanted because nobody stayed. All the people
That's
left. It was like we were in the
that's
park and it
because
was
they were all like,
closed.
"Look at those idiots at that freezing cold park."
Look at those morons. Yeah, we rode that Jaws ride several times because it had an exploding boat in it.
The
There was
King
a King
Kong
Kong.
ride had explosions and fire in it.
Yeah, King Kong had some fire in it, so we rode that a bunch of times. But it was an adventure. It was just kind of fun and funny to be at a place like Universal Studios in Orlando, and it was like we were the only four people in the park. I mean, it got cold, and they just they just fled like rats from a sinking ship. We gutted it out. we we stayed until It closed. I think we were there till 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
We were there till 11 o'clock at p.m. because Disney World costs money.
Disney World costs money, but we were there till 11 at Universal Studios. We were there so long. Do you remember when we went to the parking garage and the garage was empty, and on the very back end of the garage was one car, our rental? Do you remember that?
We had we have video footage somewhere. We have empirical evidence that we were the only people in that entire theme park.
Yeah.
Sis was filming us walking through Universal Studios, and we were the only people there. And then we get to the parking garage, and the only car in the entire parking garage was your rental car in the back of the garage.
Yes. Yes. That was quite an adventure and quite a lot of fun. Okay, I think that answered our one question. Don't you think that we answered that adequately?
I think we answered that pretty thoroughly. People keep them coming. Ask us more questions. We'll answer 3 questions, no more, because we don't want to talk about it.
We don't want to, and the fact that we only had one today, we don't want to talk about that. We only had one,
No,
but hey, we had one. Even if it came from Cameron's mother, my wife, that's okay. It was a question, and we answered it. Uh, I think that's about it. You got anything else?
I don't think I got anything else, Dad. It's getting late over here. I'm gonna make me some dinner and get some rest. I got tours tomorrow, so I got work to do tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Well, that sounds good. Again, one last reminder, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps the channel. Bud, had a lot of fun. This ran a little long because we decided we're not going to worry about time, and I have no idea how long it's going to be when I get it uploaded, but doesn't matter. We had a good time. I hope some folks had a good time watching, and you get going and go make yourself some dinner. I think I'm going to do the same thing. Oh my word, it's like 8:30 for you. It's 5:30 for me. So I'm going to make myself some dinner, and you do the same, and we'll talk at you later.
All right. See you later, Dad. Talk to you soon.
See you later. Love you.
Love you too.